Welcome to Spotlight Veterans Entrepreneurship, a special series from the American Legion's Tango Alpha Lima podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Gorbolja. In each episode, we sit down with a veteran or military spouse entrepreneur who is leading the charge across different industries. We will explore the challenges, breakthroughs, and real stories behind building a business during and after military service. The food and beverage industry is as much about tradition as it is storytelling. It's about flavor and business. In this episode, we explore how veterans bring their heritage to life through culinary ventures. Charlynda Scales, Air Force veteran and founder of Mutt Sauce and the 6888 Kitchen, shares her journey of carrying on family legacy, launching products into major retail stores, and creating pathways for other food-based entrepreneurs. Charlynda, welcome to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
Thank you for having me, Ashley. I'm glad to be here.
I'm super excited to have you on because being able to watch the journey, right? It doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of hard work and hustle. There's things that happen in the wee hours. There's pivots. And I know that you have experienced that. And I'm super excited to kind of jump into questions here with you about inheritance and intention. So taking your grandfather's Mutt sauce recipe and turning it into a business, how did you know that this was more than just a family story, but a brand worth building?
It was very humbling beginnings, right? So my grandfather was a very influential person in my life. He was my father figure growing up. And it really started with just a reverence for him and his passion for taking care of the family, for service that kind of echoed into what we did as a family. I eventually went into the military as well, into the Air Force, just like him. And when he made Mutt Sauce in 1956, it wasn't meant to be a company. It was a conduit. It was something that we could use to bring people together. You could see that in pictures when he was in Japan. It was to bring people together who normally society would say don't have anything in common and shouldn't get along. And when I received the recipe, I was on active duty. So it's 8 years after my grandfather had passed. And at that point, it wasn't so much I wanted to carry on a brand. When I got the piece of paper, it was just a written recipe in his handwriting on a sheet of paper. It wasn't like I inherited a company, because I think sometimes people are like, wow, you got this whole company. What do you want to do with it? It was a piece of paper. And at that moment, without saying anything, he told me a lot. He provided the direction of do something. And if I was going to do something, it was going to take care of the family and bring people together.
That is incredibly wholesome. I feel like you gave me the secret sauce of life right now, because it's so valuable to know that sometimes life doesn't come with instructions, but even though you had those specific ingredients, like everything else was self-explanatory deep in your heart because of the relationship you had with your grandfather. And it's very important that I think any entrepreneur out there understand the why behind what they're going to do. There's a lot of noise sometimes about, like, you got to get in the game. Here's your blueprint. You got to do this, or you got to make X number of dollars. And sometimes we forget about the why, or the values proposition behind the thing we're doing.
Because people are not buying a product, right? They're buying into an idea. Somehow your product or service is going to improve their life, make things easier for them, improve their morale. It's very rarely do we see people investing in a business or supporting it just because the product tastes great, So you're exactly right. You need to know why you're doing it, because the challenges that you'll face as an entrepreneur, you better have a strong reason why, because you're not always going to have cash. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And I again, me feeling like I have like future powers or just like all knowledge right now, but knowing a bit of your story, and I want to dive a bit deeper into some of the curveballs, some of the consumer packaged goods, I guess lingo terminology. It's a tough industry to break into,
Mhm.
and especially trying to sell mud sauce. What early hurdles did you face in getting mud sauce shelf ready and distribution ready?
I was very fortunate to have great mentors. I just feel like I'm a product of really smart people who came into my life or I sought them out. I had a strong why, but I did not have the what.
Mm.
What do you do? I walked in, it was SCORE. So score.org, I went on there, I Googled free help. That's who showed up. And I think SCORE is amazing. I think what they provide is not only people who have experience in the industry that they want to be a volunteer in, but just the fact that they want to be a volunteer to help mentor someone else and make the path easier for them or provide advice and lessons learned. And so that's what my SCORE mentor, John Suter, was for me. I said, I want to make a product. I want to maybe turn this into a couple bottles for friends and family because everyone missed my grandfather. And that was something that was synonymous with his personality. And mentors go one step above advisors. Advisors will give you the checklist of what to do, but a mentor is listening to your life and how this will affect your life. And he said, what I hear is your grandfather loved his family and he just ran out of time. So this is not a small thing. This is not a couple bottles for friends and family situation. This is multi-generational support. And you can't look at it as a small thing if we're going to make big impacts. Now, that's where the advice came in, where he understood my life, but he said, here's the checklist for a tomato based food product that people are going to buy in a grocery store. So then the advice that I was given was think of the biggest thing that you could possibly do with this. And you plan as if that was the goal. Because even if you don't get there, you're prepared for everything else before that. So if you prepare for a farmer's market, you'll be ready for a farmer's market, but you won't be ready for Kroger or HEB. But if you prepare for Kroger and HEB, of course you'll be ready for a farmer's market. So that's what he did. I was thinking about being in tons of stores on day one and all the things I put in place, the manufacturing, the sauce. So he said, you can't get into Kroger if you can it like cottage food in your house. You have to either get a manufacturer or you have to join a commercial kitchen. So we had a sauce manufacturer. The money that I was going to buy a BMW with it, Ashley. Not gonna lie. I didn't have any financial literacy, so I thought, making it in life was having a nice car. So my military savings was to buy a BMW. I took that and the advice from John, and we invested it into my first production with a reputable sauce manufacturer to make sure that it came out right. And I don't regret it at all. And that provides not only consistency of logistics and distribution, but like quality control, making sure that if I sell 1,000 bottles, everyone tastes the same, they all look the same, and I don't have to worry about that. And it's a better customer service experience when you can provide consistency. That's what we did.
That's
$25,000 day one.
wow. That's a heck of a pivot too. Wow. Okay.
I really wanted
Let
a
me
BMW,
unpack that.
actually.
The packaging. Hold on. So impressive. You found a mentor through SCORE who was like, you need to think long term, right? So I want to be on the store shelves. Here's where I need to be. helped you create like a back azimuth or a back plan, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, here's how I need to, here's who I need to reach out to, right? The manufacturers, you're right, quality control. You have to be at a commercial kitchen. I know that there are folks that are going to be listening who are like, oh, well, I make, cupcakes, or I do this, or I use, my home, or, and so you got to think big, and you got to plan for everything. And I think your mentor really did you a solid. And I know you've had other mentors along the way too, which is incredibly impressive, who have helped you through these different stages, right? Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure starting the business, and I know that your business was within during COVID as well. And I'm kind of curious, just kind of dig a secondary question into the learning curve, particularly when the world was in an odd place and you were still trying to launch and get the product out. I know it's a family affair, but I'm not sure all of the details. I'm sure the listeners would love to learn a little bit more
Oh,
about
sure. Yeah, so we've been open since 2014, and our business model when we started is not where we're at now. So the original business model was in-person events, regional grocery stores, and then festivals. So
that. Mm.
farmers markets, festivals, and that worked because people want to try the product, they want to taste it, and it gave me an opportunity to cut my teeth in pitching, things like that. In the first 6 months, we had been on Shark Tank, so that was an experience that I had in that first 6 months. And when I approached them, it was to be in grocery stores. So all that was working up until the pandemic, when you have all these rules about interaction. So in that first month when they announced the pandemic, all events that were in person that you had paid for, maybe you paid registration fees, and I've paid for a lot of them because it's for the whole year. All of them were canceled with no refund, with no refunds of your registration. So all that money's gone. All the potential sales are gone. So you're just sitting there with tons of thousands of dollars of inventory. You can't do demos in grocery stores. So to capture new customers in grocery stores, you can't let them taste the product. So acquiring a new customer was tougher. But there was one way that we were hearing of success, but I was like, frankly, ignorant of the fact that you could do it, was selling online. And the crazy thought I had, I said to my mentors, who buys food online? Like, who does that? And they looked at me as like, everybody, uh, wake up. And it is because I personally hadn't done it, that I thought that my buying habits were the same as everybody else's buying habits. And that was just an experience that I had to look outside myself and say, what is everybody else doing? And if you didn't, it was almost like pivot or die. You know, you either pivoted or you weren't in business. And I remember I'd had my baby. So my first baby was born in March 2020. So there I was with a newborn and no money. And I had all this inventory. And we had muttsauce.com, but we weren't selling off of it. So I'm up there rocking my baby, feeding my baby at midnight, going through YouTube videos on how to start an e-commerce company. It's just, that's what you got to do. And that's what I tell anybody, do what you have to do. Don't think that anything is beneath you, and be okay with being a student. I went from being knowledgeable to being a rookie overnight. And you got to be okay with being in business for 8 years and now you're the rookie again. So that's what we did. And then by that summer, we had gotten an e-commerce contract with QVC. So as an example of the difference, I went from not having muttsauce.com to doing 4,000 bottles in a 10-minute show online. That quick.
That's impressive. It's an impressive pivot. I'm so happy you're able to share that, because folks need to know that at any point, sometimes you have to start over. You have to learn something new. That's the name of the game of entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've been to a lot of events. I think that there is a very stark difference between entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. And I've been around folks like that. I think they just exist in the world in these opposites. But like when you really have to get after and find the sale and move and pivot and
Yeah.
just be up late making the choices and the calls, like that is not for the weak. It is not
Yeah.
for those who you got to be very uncomfortable sometimes. And that those big moves, the continuous learning is part of the game.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy you're able to share a little bit about that huge pivot, particularly because you had the Shark Tank experience, you were doing the in person, and it's okay to acknowledge that sometimes like we have our own personal biases, which is why we sometimes limit our own customer base.
Mm-hmm.
That's something people got to sit with, and maybe make one of those roadmaps, talk to your mentor. And it sounds like you were able to have that mentorship during that time and lessons learned. And so I'm curious,
Mm-hmm.
so from sauce to strategy, all the puns today. Well, let's see. So I am aware that you have now expanded into the 6888 kitchen, and I'd like just an opportunity for you to explain that. But how did you decide when it was the right time to evolve or diversify your brand? I know you have co-founders as well, and like what's been really keeping your vision focused? Because you've got Mutt sauce, and now you've done a pivot to help the community. So first, tell us a little bit about the 6888 kitchen and how that kind of came to be.
Absolutely. Well, I'll confess one thing. In looking at all the things that I've done in my career, I don't think I was not of the entrepreneur mindset of, I want to start a company. I'm going to start Mutt Sauce. And it's named after my grandfather. That's why it's called Mutt Sauce. I don't know if I said that earlier, but I never wanted to start a company. Same thing with the commercial kitchen. I didn't set out saying, I want to start a commercial kitchen. There's three of us. We have three co-founders, myself, Jamaica White, Debria Rice. And even they didn't start out saying, we want to build a commercial kitchen. We had plenty going on that we did not need to do anything else. And that's why I would say, like, there's never a convenient time to do something impactful, like a company. There will not be a time where, like, everything's going great and working 24/7 on this is the right time to do it. I was pregnant, so this is before I had my son. When I met them, it was mentoring other food businesses. So I've gone from being a founder to, hey, you know what? Other people might need some of this advice. So say the other thing that John did for me, he introduced me to a lady locally who owned a salsa company, a bit of a bite salsa. And he said, it's more than just me telling you the checklist. You need to hear from another food founder in this area of what it's like to have a tomato-based product. And she can tell you exactly what manufacturer to go to, exactly who to work for to source ingredients, exactly what bottling company to use. I can't do that because I've never owned a tomato-based company, but Peggy knows. So I felt like now I'm kind of a Peggy because I know what not to do, and I can tell you just enough for you to be dangerous. And I don't want other entrepreneurs to have these pitfalls. And when I tried to expand my business outside of Ohio, I thought, let me go to Washington, D.C. And it was in my personal life. I was moving to Washington, D.C. anyway, but I wanted to expand Mutt Sauce to D.C. I didn't have a manufacturer yet. So I was like, I'm going to have to maybe find a warehouse or something. That's when I learned about commercial kitchens, because Union Kitchen was a new place in Washington, D.C. It was this concept of a co-working space for food founders. You go in, it's a certified facility, you rent time, you batch your food, you get in there in a few hours, make all your bottles, and then you can save them there. And then it's still a certified clean kitchen. So it's like having the same certifications as if you were a manufacturer in a manufacturing facility. So I saw that. Of course, it was a little too difficult for me to execute in DC, but I knew it existed. So when I came back to Ohio and I was mentoring food founders, they would talk to me. I'm like, you should be in a commercial kitchen. Of course. They're like, what the heck is that? And I went into downtown Dayton. They have a organization that facilitates, I would say, like you to get a space, to build out a space, downtown commercial property. And I said, do you guys have commercial kitchens? I need to funnel these entrepreneurs somewhere other than telling them there's nowhere to go. They don't have $25,000 or they don't have $100,000 to have a brick and mortar. That's the in between. It doesn't exist. They said, but you know what? Jamaica and Debria walked in here the other day and they said they're trying to expand the space that they use too. People are renting extra time in the kitchen that they own and they wanted to expand their space. And I said, who's Jamaica and Debria? So they facilitated us meeting each other, not because we wanted to build a kitchen, but because we cared about food founders and wanted to find a solution. What just ended up happening is that we built it. It is a nonprofit. 6888 Kitchen pays respect to the 6888 Central Postal Battalion from World War II. So our country sent 855 minority women to Europe. We had 17 million backlog of 17 million parcels of mail in a warehouse. Frankly, none of the soldiers had heard from their family because all the letters had been undelivered. And it was an impossible job. So they gave them 6 months to do it. Their commander, Charity Adams Early, she was a resident of Dayton, Ohio. And so we're looking at what can we name this kitchen that pays respect to military history, to women's history, to just the crazy hard task of what we're about to do, build one of the largest commercial kitchens in Ohio. We had a great example sitting right in front of us. So we named it after the 6888. And the other thing is, if you don't know American history, when you walk through the door, the natural question is, why'd you name it 6888? And then you're going to learn American history.
Oh, makes me so happy. Gives me chills. I also did not know that she was from Dayton, Ohio. I just watched the Netflix series. Gosh, as soon as it dropped, I watched it. It was amazing. I know the 6888 were just awarded I believe it's the Gold Congressional Medals. So, right? Yeah, Gold Congressional.
Yes, we were given an invitation to Washington, D.C. So there's been byproducts of really awesome experiences since we've opened. And that was one in April of 2025. We were invited to Washington, D.C. to be present for the awarding of the Congressional Gold Medal and interact with the community, not just here in the U.S., but also in the U.K. The 6888 are widely known for what they've done. And a contingent from the UK was there as well. So we all celebrated them. I think we just recently lost one. So at this point of this interview, there's only one living member of the 6888 left of the 855. Wow. She's like 103 or something.
Wow. I love when we can talk about food and history. Maybe the next venture is like bringing professors of different topics in, and we can just have good nom-noms and talk about American history and be nerds together and bond over Mutt sauce and all the things that make us happy, right?
I'm here for it.
That sounds wonderful. Oh, what an amazing story and such serendipity, particularly with you and your co-founders, right? Like all coming together under this unified need and desire to help others. And congratulations. I know that has been quite the undertaking. And again, things don't happen overnight, but I'll tell you what, super proud. Just watching from afar. It's impressive endeavor you've taken on.
Thank you. It's an honor to see them thrive. We currently have 15 members of our kitchen. So like I said, it's membership based. They can either be in there hourly or they can be full-timers. And so right now it's a great option for ghost kitchen concept. So people who they don't have enough capital to have their own restaurant yet, but they're testing out their menus and they're growing their teams. And so they're in there every day. And I love to see them thrive. That is all we really wanted to do is make a better journey, make a better on-ramp for other founders.
And that's exactly what you're doing. Wholeheartedly, that is what you were doing, especially when it comes to values in business. I lean into this final question, but what advice do you have for veteran entrepreneurs trying to honor their personal story or legacy without getting lost in the noise in today's hyper competitive market?
Mm. Well, I would say one thing, there's enough room at the table for everyone to eat well. So even when I look in a grocery store and look at, there's hot sauce, barbecue, ketchup, and every day there's new brands popping up. You just have to know that your customer is your customer, and your customer's been waiting on what you have to deliver. Just focus on that one person and deliver the best experience that you can. Don't worry about everybody else. Because when you go into a restaurant, it could be like the Cheesecake Factory menu, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to order the same thing every time, right? So
You're
I'm
not
like,
wrong.
don't worry about there being so many options. Uh, and when I received the recipe from my grandfather, that the biggest lesson I learned from that phase was I didn't feel qualified. I used to deal with a lot of imposter syndrome, and I feel like in the last couple of years I've had an awakening. Um, it was something I would say it, but I wasn't living it. You don't have to feel qualified to be qualified. That's it. Feeling qualified is not the prerequisite for you stepping up and getting the job done, for you making an impact in your community. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have all the tools. You just have to have the vision and the heart for it to do the work. And the rest will take care of itself. The people will come. The mentors that you need to have in your life at that point in your life will show up. I've had people that I'm just vocal about problems I'm trying to solve. I don't know how to solve it, but if I vocalize that I need help, then help appears. And that's just the way, so many people struggle because they're like, I don't want to say that, I'm not ready, or I don't want to say that, I'm a disabled vet. I don't want to say these things. It's like you need to be transparent because people don't know how to help you if you're hiding. If you hide all the parts of you, we don't know how to help you. And I would just encourage them to be transparent, to keep that heart of service, because we really need it. We really need it. We need servant leaders. We need people who are willing to make a difference. And I think veterans do that so well. You've stepped up in roles and they don't even realize the strengths that they have. They downplay the experience that they have. You go into a job, there's no commander that's just like, how old are you? Are you 23? You 24? Okay, you're just 24. You can't do this. I've never heard any of that. It is, what is your position? What is your job? What the mission did we give you? Get her done. It's not, how do you feel today? Do you feel like you can do it? Like, you
What
know?
is what is it? Uh,
Yeah.
there's there's always a deadline, but there are no resources. You have your team. I have no more instructions to give you, but I need it done. And I feel like that is the I'll just say this from my or my not commissioned sergeant life, but that was very true in all of my lived experiences in the military. It's like you will find a way, and you'd be surprised when you kind of strip away the title, the age, and some of these qualifiers we put on ourselves, our limitations, right? And I think as a society, we've really gotten good at allowing others to impose their own limitations on us. And I say
Yeah.
that generally speaking, but like if you really think about it, there's a lot of people out there who tell you no, you can't do it like that. And I kind of just always challenge people. I can, I will, watch me. And to the same effect, Charlynda, like you've crushed it. You are a shining example of what determination and principled leadership looks like, right? I know you're. Is it like-hearted? Is that? Is that the
Yeah,
term that you
find
use?
like-hearted people.
Like-hearted? I know, like-minded, like-hearted. Mm-hmm.
Like-hearted.
And
Because, there's like-minded. And like-minded people, in my experience, can't really teach you something new. You can't really grow with someone who doesn't challenge you. They just always agree with you. And there's two sides to that. A like-hearted person will lovingly disagree, but you also have to cultivate within yourself the ability to be corrected, because you're not always
that's
right.
very
And I
powerful.
think sometimes entrepreneurs, we got the ego, like our ego tells us, yeah, I've been in the game for so long. I am always a student. I am on the daily. I'm learning something from my entrepreneurs in the kitchen. Even my mother, God bless her, she helps me. And people are like, how are you doing the mom stuff? And I said, I'm not excellent in all things. I have excellent people in my life. That is the difference. I don't claim to be able to do
Yeah,
all the things, because if
I
I'm
can't.
present here, I'm absent there.
That's so true. That's so true. Oh man, don't want the
Yep. So
energy to end.
I rely on those people, and they're like-hearted. We share the same core values. We don't always agree on the way forward, but we share the same core values, and I respect and receive different perspectives. And I just want that to be how I interact with everyone, is to stay open-minded. There's always something to learn.
Absolutely. You've said it beautifully. I'm over here struggling for words right now because you have, like I said, you've done the things, you've made the path, and now you're mentoring those on the path, but you continue to strive for excellence. And like I said, you're a very principled founder. You know what you're doing. You have an idea of where you want to go, and you're right. Serendipity, the right people will come to pass and be in your space for seasons, reasons, all applied. Um, but I can't think of a better note to end on. But to otherwise say thank you for your time, Charlynda. It's valuable, and I appreciate all of your valuable insight. And I know our listeners, our viewers, will definitely be figuring out their own secret sauce recipe from this, because you have such an inspiring story.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Ashley, for your service. And I've seen firsthand your leadership, especially at the American Legion, where I thank you for inviting me to the ball that night. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about you too. And so I would just encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, because I see you. I think so many people see the excellence in you. And however I can continue to support you or the American Legion, you just let me know.
Well, I appreciate you very, very much. I adore the American Legion. I think we are headed in the right direction, and we're doing all the things possible to make sure that we're taking care of our veterans and the next generations to come. And with that all being said, Alphas, thank you for joining us for this episode of Spotlight Veteran Entrepreneurship. If you found this valuable today, our conversation, be sure to follow the American Legion's Tango Alpha Lima podcast, share this episode, check out any additional resources at the American Legion.org, As always, please like, subscribe, and drop a rating on this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to your podcasts. Until then, next time, keep building boldly.